welcome to the Game Plan T1D Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Benger. On this podcast, we sit down with successful diabetic athletes to try to uncover what it is that allows them to excel despite their diabetes. Today on the show, it is my pleasure to be joined by Anthony Green. Anthony, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me today.
So for our audience who may not be familiar with you, kind of give some context as to who you are, where you come from, what you're passionate about, and sort of your story as a diabetic.
My full name is Anthony Solomon Green. I was raised in Quincy, Massachusetts, went to high school at North Quincy High, graduated there after 4 years, did my prep year at Tilton Prep in New Hampshire, won the NEPSAC title there, and then ended up here at this great school. So it's been a long journey. I was diagnosed when I was about 14, so from freshman transition to sophomore year of high school, that's when it happened. It was the end of, from like April into May, going into there around that time.
Yep.
Kind of happened over on a weekend, like Friday leading into the weekend, just was out at the park playing basketball. Couldn't make it up and down the court. This has been going on for 2 weeks prior though, losing just weight drastically, going weighed 220 to 180 within 2 weeks. And
wow.
We at first thought it was just puberty happening, but little did we know that 2 weeks it was going to be something else. And then I ended up in the hospital that Friday night with blood sugar of around 800.
800?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, obviously, basketball had been in your life prior to that. When was it that you first kind of developed that passion for the game?
I kind of really developed it my sophomore year because I kind of see diabetes as a gift and a curse. I kind of see it as, because it kind of helped me lose weight, and then because I was playing football and basketball, and I was kind of what sport do I want to go with? Then I slimmed out. I was getting tall. I was already 6'3" as a freshman, 6'3", 220. So
pretty good.
Yeah. So then sophomore year, I was about 6'5", 190, 200. Actually starting to put on good weight. So then that's when I kind of realized that basketball was going to be the sport for me. And honestly, after that, once I thought it was just going to be something overnight, they were going to give me medication, I was going to go home, but little did I know it was for life once they told me. And then that kind of just rocked my world a little bit. I was like, all right, you never know what's going to happen and come into your life. It could take it away. So I kind of really just started focusing on that, putting all my passion into it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love what you said about it being a blessing and a curse, because I know a ton of our guests have said that, and I certainly feel that way. And it's just especially as an athlete, right?
Yeah.
You already have to be so accountable for, what you're putting in your body, how much sleep you're getting,
yes.
How does stress factor into this whole thing. And all of those factors that impact being an athlete also impact diabetes.
Yes.
So by having to have good diabetic care, you're going to be a good athlete kind of as a result of that. So let's go back to that diagnosis. As you were diagnosed, what were some of those emotions? Were you concerned that going forward with your basketball career that would be an issue?
I'd say more my mom and dad they were obviously the most struck back from it. Kind of because my grandfather on my dad's side had it, and then my grandmother had it from my mom's side, so it kind of skipped them and then just came to me, and then really hit them hard. It took me about 2 weeks to kind of figure out. I was this ain't that bad, and then you kind of go through it that first month, and then usually that second month you start to be why me, and then you kind of go through the week. It's all right, I'm getting really tired of doing this and whatnot, and then it's kind of, you just got to push through it at that point.
Yeah.
And I definitely still go through it today. I mean, it's something that won't leave me, honestly. I think my first year here was really hard for me, especially leaving for prep school was really hard.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, my mom was, oh my God, she was in shambles, calling me every night, because that first year when I got it, she was always testing me at night, up at 3 a.m. Just she was on my nightstand, just watching over me, making sure everything was all right. So it's definitely a life changer.
So talk to me about that, transitioning into prep school, and this is a time where everyone is starting to take on more independence, and you have this added burden of diabetes. How were you in that process of transitioning and becoming more independent? What was your care looking like at that point, and what kind of systems were you using to manage your diabetes?
So when I first diagnosed that first year, I was on the violin needle going down to the nurse's office for lunch, just calculating what I was going to eat and everything. So then junior year, kind of the same thing. And then my senior year of high school, they came up with the Humalog pen. It looks just like a little green pen that I carry with me till this day.
Is that quick pen?
Yeah.
It has like the reservoir built into it?
Yeah, you can unscrew it, put the Humalog into cartridge. Yep, oh, okay. It has half units, everything. So I started transitioning to that, and then because I knew that I was going to go to prep school somewhere, I just didn't know where. And I was going to be going, it was either prep school or college. I was still deciding what I wanted to do. So that definitely was a big help, figuring out to do that. And then just leading up to that, kind of doing things on my own, like not going to the nurse's office for a week to see like how my numbers would be affected and whatnot. And then like going back to the nurse's office, having to do it with me, just a lot of trial and error that went into it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think trial and error is a huge part in you know, on that topic, were there any moments for you that kind of stood out in your mind as like, oh man, I remember this time where I really messed up, or I forgot to bring glucose tabs, or I forgot to bring a Gatorade to practice, and as a result of that, like, I came up with a new system. Are there any like kind of like learning experiences like that you can remember?
So my junior year going to senior year, when I had it, we were playing like a lot of just summer league tournament games and everything, and then we were down to UMass Lowell, and we like went out to get food. Went out, got Chinese food. Not the best thing to eat. I mean, when you got like, when you got 3 games in a day, not the best thing, because that was really the first time I experienced the high, and then didn't know how like I would play throughout it, kind of. So I didn't play like that second game until like the second half, and then from then on I was like, I really gotta like straighten up on like my diet, like either bring food or like the day before, like figure out what's around that's gonna be the best option for me. And that was something that me and my mom and my coach really learned from it. My coach kind of was like struck back. He was like, honestly, he's like, yeah, like you need to get this on track. And my parents were just, it's a learning experience from then on.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge factor for athletic performance. If you're not in that range, like you're gonna play terrible, high or low. So Anthony, as a result of that experience, do you now kind of have a pregame ritual that you've developed over the years?
Yeah, so my pregame is usually, depending on where we are, if it's home game, wake up, get to the arena, shoot, watch film, go out, scout, practice, get shots up, come back. They get us food, and it's been the same for like the last 4 years. I keep it simple with just like steak and rice, and then I kind of have that down. Eat, shower, come back to the arena. Usually bring just like juices with me, and then tablets the trainers have. Keep it on just in case, like anything before the game. Our equipment manager puts Powerades in the fridge for me if I ever need it. I mean, it's happened a few times where like the food I give a little bit too much, just because like the adrenaline of like practice kind of stays with me, and I forget that sometimes still. But that's the routine I usually stick to. Same thing on the road.
Yeah. And how is it? You mentioned that adrenaline from practice, but what's the adrenaline situation like heading into a game? Because we obviously know those are more high stakes.
Yeah, I mean, usually before the game, I usually like to be around from like, I like to keep it a little bit high, like from like 170 to 250. I like to keep my blood sugar at, and then because regardless, I know I'm gonna spike to 300 or something, but that's how I personally like to do it. And then after the game, I kind of just like get a water, drink that, give a unit, and then by the time I'm back in my room in like 30 minutes after I showered, I'm already back down to like 100 or 150. I'm in that range right there.
I know for me, so I played college football, and I experienced the adrenaline before games. Yeah. And, I'd have a low-carb breakfast. I'd be like, there's no way I'm going above like 250. And then all of a sudden, game time, it's like an hour, T-minus an hour out, maybe have like a sip of Gatorade, and I'm like 400 or something like that. And, you're bolusing, your blood sugar can't come down. And then over the course of the game, get that first hit, first quarter goes by, and then I'm tanking. Did you have to go through any trial and error with that, about that insulin resistance that comes with adrenaline?
Yeah, I definitely went through that. I kind of got lucky that I was diagnosed with it like kind of leading into summer, because then I really got to like play around with it. Like in the mornings, just like eat and then go play, and kind of I would give kind of on my own, and then see what would happen like later on in the day. And I was like, all right, like I'm dropping, and then like I just talked to my doctor, like, yeah, like that's gonna happen. You usually shouldn't give any, like it's gonna be normal if you have 300. Just wait like in 40 minutes, and then you should be back down to normal.
Yeah.
So I was kind of lucky that over the summer I got to trial and error, that I wasn't like actually in like the heart of the season trying to do this and like figure it out at the same time on the fly.
Yeah, there's a lot to figure out. And you mentioned you were diagnosed at, you said 14?
Yes.
I've always just found that such a, an interesting thing to me, because I was diagnosed at 5. So I grew up with T1D, didn't know anything other than like reading nutrition labels, stuff like that, always being aware of, how much insulin do I have on board? Do I have all like my fast acting insulin? All those kind of routine things that you need. But for you at 14, I'm sure you could remember a lot of days of just like having a Coke and like eating pizza and like not having to deal with the consequences of that. What was outside of, athletic performance, what was like the lifestyle impact of being diagnosed, and how did you handle that?
It kind of shocks you first. You're kind of just like, coming from you, like being diagnosed at 5, it's like that's all you know. For me, getting at 14, I didn't have the freedom to kind of go out and do whatever I wanted anymore. Like, had to carry backpacks with my supplies in it all the time. Now it's like I wasn't staying at my friends' houses anymore. I wasn't like eating what they were doing. Like, it's just it changes your world a lot from like other people's. So
yeah,
it's really changing. So I don't know. I can't really explain it that well, but
it's a lot.
It's just a lot to do, honestly.
It's a lot. And it's kind of interesting, because I feel like, and I have experienced this, growing up, I never wanted to, in athletics, like publicize my diabetes. And it's just something where like I'm on an insulin. So I, for reference, wear an Omnipod and then a Dexcom CGM.
Yes.
So it goes to my phone, and then I have a thing that kind of looks like a cell phone that I do my insulin through. And like someone could be watching me from the sideline or like go through my daily life. They might not even know I have like this serious chronic illness. Is that something that you have kind of thought about in terms of how vocal are you about your diabetes, and how demonstrative are you with your diabetes?
I don't try to make it something that's like, oh, it's like, I don't make it first known, kind of like.
Yeah.
When I was diagnosed, like when I was getting recruited like by schools, I really didn't tell them that. Like, I told my high school coach, like, don't tell them anything about that. My AU coach, I was like, if I'm going to go to that school, like, I'm going to let them know on my terms. I don't want them to be watching me like, oh, it's like, is this affecting him? Is that affecting him? It's like, no, I'm just playing the sport like how I want to play. And then once I committed here, I kind of waited until like that first summer when I got here. And I kind of let Coach know and like the staff know. And he's like, I never would have guessed it at all. So, I kind of don't like to really be like talking about it, but as this year came along, kind of more and more like people have reached out to me to like kind of speak out on it, kind of. So I'm enjoying it, being able to like get my story out there and let know like that it is possible, because like where I go to is Weymouth like Children's Hospital, where my endocrine is, and like just seeing like the little kids in there, like sometimes it's hard. It's like they don't know like what they're going through, and like it kind of just hits home sometimes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that I realized is it's like it's bigger than you and me. And our diabetes and our stories have the ability to really create a positive impact for people. And, obviously you're a very successful athlete, but a lot of people are really struggling with their diabetes. And that could be from not having good access to care, or it could be, they're just not educated enough to make good, healthy decisions. Yeah. So on that topic, what would be some of your tips for, say, someone who's either, recently diagnosed, or maybe someone who's diagnosed as a kid, but they're just going through a really tough patch right now?
I'd say don't hold back on, like, what you crave. Like, if you're going to crave something, just go get it out of the way, and then just realize it's like, all right.
In terms of food, you're saying?
Yeah, like in terms of food, like
you want a Snickers.
Yeah, you want a Snickers. Like go get it. You want to go to like get a milkshake or something, go do it. Like don't hold yourself back and be like, oh, I really want, and then like have it like on your mind, and then like then you start to like then you're gonna look at yourself like, why me? Why'd I get it? And then you're gonna really get down on yourself, because I still do it to this day. It's like you just gotta go and have it every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong to it. You're just gonna give
I'll
more
need
insulin
Dairy
to work
every once in a while.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that, and then just keeping like stick to your diet, like, because that one meal, it's not gonna do nothing. You have to consistently be doing that for a while it to actually impact you. That one milkshake or snack or something, it's not gonna kill you that day.
Yeah. Speaking of diet, like personally, I think diet is probably one of the most important aspects of diabetes care. You mentioned steak and rice is kind of a pre-game staple.
Yeah.
Outside of game time, what do you like to kind of put in your body to fuel you?
I kind of have like a routine that I go through. I stick to like every day, kind of like 6 eggs in the morning, oatmeal, water, and then lunch is usually something I can find like around campus. Usually, either like a salad or like I'll go back to my room and cook whatever I have there. And then dinner time is kind of where like I'll usually get most of my carbs in for the day because I've usually practiced and lifted already and done everything throughout that time. So I like to keep it consistent like that. And then like on days we have games, usually the pregame meal will be like will be my lunch for me. So
you mentioned that routine, and is there one area you feel like right now is like I need to improve the most in X? It could be like checking my blood sugar more often, pre-bolusing before meals. Is there an area where you feel like you want to still grow?
I feel like I want to grow in usually like my dinner time, because it's usually like it's like up in the air because like everything's open. I'm still trying to figure out like what I want. I think I'm just figured out kind of sticking to like finding a routine of like what I want, like mix it up throughout the week, but where I know like my numbers, I don't have to like go and do like the calculations all over again. Like if I want to go to somewhere new, like I want to like tried everything so I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So we've been talking about diabetes so much. You're a basketball star. Let's talk about your time at Northeastern. What's it been like? What are the guys like on the team, and how's this season going for you guys?
It's been great. Honestly, the 4 years here have been really exciting, playing with like all different players, the different teams that we had, the different styles of play that we've kind of gone into this year. I mean, got played with injuries early on. I mean, it happens. We knew some adversity was going to come this season after having such a productive and good season last year.
Yep.
I mean, obviously not getting to where we wanted to, but in terms of how it went, I'd say it went pretty well. But right now, everyone's starting to come back, and then we're really going to – only thing that really matters right now is looking forward to conference play. I mean, we made it through non-conference with what we had. I mean, we learned a lot. We won some games, lost some games. That's what's going to happen. But we really learned a lot from our losses this year.
Yep.
I mean, not going to put it on like people being injured. Like, that's on us. Like, everyone has to be able to step up. So I think going into conference, we're going to be really good.
Yeah. So you mentioned, dealing with injuries and having to battle through that adversity. Obviously there's adversity in diabetes, and you also mentioned earlier in the podcast that you're a local Quincy guy. Do you feel a certain connection to those communities in the diabetic community and also that local Quincy community, and kind of trying to play for those communities and those people?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, our high school nurse, I mean, I still talk to her from time to time. She usually tells me, like, if there's, like, a new diabetic kid in the school or something, she's like, oh, so-and-so's kind of having a hard time. I mean, now that we're on Christmas break, I'm definitely going to try to go by the high school and, like, talk with them for a little bit, see what happens. I mean, I definitely, over the summer, and try to stay really involved with, like, not even just Quincy, just, like, here, the greater Boston area. Like, going back home, I work at camp sometimes there. I mean, I've done camps in like Newton for what's it called? I forget what the name of it's called. It's like some special needs games they do all day. Kind of do that. Talk to kids at a school like around here. I just try to. Me and my teammate Jeremy, with the two local kids, kind of try to be like big advocates for the locals here.
Absolutely. So on the basketball front, you got conference play coming up. This is your senior year.
Yes.
What's next for you? Do you want to try to continue playing basketball, or you haven't gotten that far yet, or what are your plans?
Oh, I've gotten that far. I definitely want to play professionally after this.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, I love this game so much, so that's every kid's dream to play professionally.
Do you think that, a diabetic athlete reaching the NBA, would that be like an added incentive for you, again, to kind of try to represent that community at the professional level?
Yeah, for sure. That'd definitely be something. I mean, obviously I thought about it like when I came into high school my freshman year. I was like maybe I could play in the league some year. Like, you see the drafts and everyone's like, oh, like I'd love to be up there, and then like once I got into senior year, it kind of really became reality where I was like, all right, maybe this isn't my future to play, but definitely being a diabetic, that would definitely be like a really high achievement for me.
Oh, yeah. So kind of thinking about that and taking a step back and reflecting, because I know that can be hard to do when you're in the heat of the moment, but thinking back to your diagnosis at 14, you're at Quincy High School to now Northeastern basketball star, potentially on the cusp of becoming an NBA player. Walk us through, like, what does that journey mean to you, looking back, reflecting on it now?
It means everything to me, honestly. I mean, I'm thankful for how my parents, like, responded to it. I mean, my mom sitting in the car for hours on end, just driving me to AAU tournaments, taking care of me, making sure I had everything I need. My dad working endless hours to make sure that he could supply and, like, pay for the needs of, like, what I need, because I've looked at how much these things cost, like Humalog and everything costs underneath the insurance, and I see why, like, some people, like, it's not that affordable, honestly.
Yeah.
So definitely, like, the journey has been a lot. I mean, that's why I hope that I can make it and then, like, be a difference and, like, give back to the communities like this.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. And really, again, that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to use stories like yours, stories like mine. We're trying to use sports in general because it's so compelling. Like, everybody loves sports.
Yeah.
We're trying to use that to raise funds so that we can do what you said, try to level the playing field, because, like you said, this stuff is really, really expensive, and not everybody has access to it. But if you can get access to it, you can do great things. You can make it to the NBA. You can, climb out of it. You can do whatever you want. But making sure that everyone has that access is super important. So as we're starting to wrap up here, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to? I know you mentioned your mom and dad that have kind of helped you get to this point.
Yeah, my mom, my dad, my first AAU coach, Wally Stokes, who kind of put the courage and, like, pride in me to kind of take this thing to the next level, which I've done from then. My high school coaches, Coach Barrett, my high school coach at Tilton, Marcus O'Neill, like, all my teammates that I've ever played with that I still, like, keep in touch with today, honestly, like, they pushed me to be the best that I can be, so.
That's awesome, man. Well, best of luck with the NBA, and best of luck in finishing out your senior season here, obviously. Want to do the best you can for Northeastern as well. Any final messages for the diabetic community before we sign off here?
It is doable, whatever you want to do. I mean, if you've got the resources to live the best life possible, make the most of it, because there's someone else, like, who knows there's someone else in a town over or a city over, a state over that can't do the same things that you can, but, like, they look at it as they want to. So just take the most and make the most of every moment. Like my coach, that's what my coach has always said to me, make the most of everything that you can, because, like, tomorrow is never really guaranteed, and that's kind of what I've lived by once I got diagnosed. I'm Anthony Green. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I have a game plan.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Game Plan T1D Podcast. For related content, please visit www.gameplant1d.com or follow us on social media at Game Plan T1D. Find your game plan.